Welcome everybody to the Audit and Control meeting for December. I'll call a meeting to order. And I'll ask for a motion to approve the minutes from 11/10/22.
I'll make that motion, Chair.
I'll second.
Motion's been made and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. The next on the agenda is the privilege of the floor. Anyone here to speak to the privilege of the floor?
Was it PJ gonna speak?
Huh?
Is it PJ gonna speak?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Next.
Okay.
Seeing no one, I will close the privilege of the floor. I've had a request to move item 24, the discussion and the Human Services reorganization by the county executive, PJ Wendell, because he's got other engagements shortly. Mr. Wendell, you are on.
Okay.
Identify yourselves for the people in cyber country.
County Executive PJ Wendell, and with me is.
County Attorney Steve Abdallah.
So we're coming to you today and discussing the local law we have presented. We presented to Administrative Services and last night to Health and Human Services. In an effort to continue the push that started, I started last year, really since I took office, but last year in my State of the County address, we focused on efficient, effective county government. Since that time, or prior to that, we hired Carmela Hernandez, our Director of Mental Hygiene Services, and has done a tremendous job creating a positive culture in the department and making a lot of change. He was at a conference and had reached out to a few people and was talking about possibly a new vision for a future here in Chautauqua County, that the way we provide services to not only mental health patients and clients rather, but also our social service clients. And what we're finding is many of those residents are seeking services from both social services and mental hygiene. So one of the first things I did, again, coming to office, I created a Human Services Cabinet, which is Office for Aging Services, Veteran Services, Probation, and DHHS, primarily so we wouldn't lose people in the shuffle, as they're going from one department to the next. And, this department, and I liken it a lot to doctors, no offense to Dr. Falk who's here, but sometimes if you have your cardiologist here and your primary physician here and somebody else here, you're giving medication, but they're not always talking and saying, well, these medications are all working together. Sometimes they work in opposition. So we didn't want that to happen with our residents. So Carmelo approached me early last summer, probably May or June, and said, I have this plan that he sought out from Orange County. Now, the vision we have and the path we've chosen is being done in Orange County and also being done in Chemung County, so larger and smaller counties. The other side with this, prior to Christine's departure, Mrs. Schuyler and I had talked about separating social services from the health department. Reason being is post-COVID, we also found that there was a great deal of work from the health department, and we would like to, isolate, if you will, the health department and their primary functions and what they're doing, and social services would still remain kind of a separate department where it was prior to 2011. Along with that, prior to 2011, we had two separate departments. And through economy, really it was based on an economic driver. Then County Executive Greg Edwards brought the two departments together, following a model that was based out of Cayuga County here in central New York. Ironically enough, Cayuga County no longer has that model or that health department. They outsource that, I believe, to another county. So we're kind of standalone. I spoke last night, and I say this quite often, in New York State we are consistently inconsistent. There is no standard model to provide services between mental hygiene, public health, and social services. Some counties, a colleague I know from, only ones to my knowledge that had social services and public health together. So at this time, we had some lengthy discussions, and we began this process in about August. And we took 6 individuals from social services, 6 from mental hygiene, and we just wanted to start having some open dialogue as to what do both departments do, what are our functions, what are our resources, and how are we helping our clients. Along with that, we are also in the process of creating a universal release. That way, clients who are working with one department could sign a release. That way, departments could share information. So with that being said and listening, we brought everybody together and we started conversation and dialogue with what we call Client Zero. There was a family that was being served by both mental hygiene and social services. And we've had a great deal of success with Client One. So with that, we continue to move on. I informed them I would let them take the lead on this. I would not get involved. I would oversee if there be any challenges. And we took this very slowly for the reason we didn't want to, force this takeover, if you will, or merger. So we've been focused on integrated services. And that's what we're doing, is integrating the two departments, having these discussions when we can to provide the best services for our clients, noting that what we found in some cases, a client is coming in, and if they're seeking services from all those departments, mental hygiene, social services, they may have 6 or 7 different people they're working with. And everybody's saying that my portion of the pie is the most important part. But inevitably, the foundations of those individuals are what we were focusing on. And sometimes, I don't want to give any specifics, but this service might be here at step 7, and really the person might have a good relationship and say, no, you need to focus on this first. And somebody else is like, no, you need to focus on my person first and this. So what we want to do in this case is bring people together between social services and mental hygiene, have these open discussions and dialogues where we can work together collaboratively, integrating those two departments and creating a better, more efficient way to provide services. Now, somebody mentioned yesterday in the meeting, what are, I think some of the questions were, why do you think this will work, or how could we work better? The intent of this is not to integrate departments and reduce our staff. That's not it at all. And one of the questions asked was, would this create more work on Mr. Hernandez as we we integrate those two departments together and bring leadership under his umbrella? And, he replied, and I totally agree, the intent is not to create more work for him, but rather many hands make light work. So if we have more people able to share the responsibilities and the job, if you will, that we should be able to provide better services and smoother services for our residents. So that's where we are from a integrated standpoint. And since we've done this, the departments themselves have met outside of our scheduled meetings and had some very organic, germane discussions that they took upon themselves. And what we found is there was a lot of, I don't want to say miscommunication, but lacks of communication for one party knowing what the other department was doing, and even internally in some departments not having 100% knowledge of what other branches of the department were doing. So with that, we focused on the new reorganization. Dr. Falk would now be as their interim health director, and we'll discuss the positions we're looking to create as well. But very strongly, and taking our time with this, we felt this is a solid move to move forward for the county. Any questions at that part, or for that? Well, then the next part, we'll turn over to Steve and explain how we're going to get here.
Yes, so the process as far as changes to the administrative code, the charter provides that the county executives have the authority to promulgate changes to the administrative code, which, the code essentially defines the organizational structure of the executive branch of the government. And so the code changes take effect 30 days after they're filed, unless the county legislature steps in and, in essence, disapproves or vetoes those changes with a 2/3 vote. Now, what's developed over time is, with the county executives, is they don't just file it and have the 30 days start ticking. Wanting to have input from the county legislature, we prepared draft code changes such as happened this month, would bring them to the applicable committees, get input and discussion, and then only after that would they be filed, and then the 30 days started. So I already received some comments and questions from Chairman Chagnon on some of the language, and I would welcome that from any of you too. So as the county executive explained, actually going back before 2011, the three departments, health, social services, and mental hygiene, were all separate departments in the code. After that, County Executive Edwards did create the DHHS, Department of Health and Human Services. Health and Social Services became integrated at that point. What the county executive is proposing now, as he explained, is to have health split off and be a standalone department again. And mental hygiene and social services would now be the two human services departments that would be integrated to provide the advantages and synergies that have been discussed. You do have two local laws on your agenda. As far as regarding the salary plan, included in those local laws are the positions that would be the two leaders of this reorganized human services. In the case of the health department, it would be the chief medical officer would be the title of the leader of the Department of Health, and Dr. Falk is proposed to be that person. And the Department of Health would, in addition to its traditional functions of public health education programs, would also be overseeing the division of the coroners and medical services for the county jail, medical services for county emergency services, including emergency medical dispatch. And all of those would be under the supervision of Dr. Falk as chief medical officer. In the case of the proposed new Department of Mental Hygiene and Social Services, that would be led by a Director of Mental Hygiene and Social Services, and they would be overseeing those two very significant divisions of mental hygiene and social services, with there being a Deputy Director of Social Services and potentially down the road a Public Health Director, depending what's needed in the Department of Health. So at this point, as I say, we're having these discussions with 3 committees this month, seeking your reaction, and then later on the county executive would be in position to file a final code document, and that would take effect 30 days later.
Any questions?
Jay, I do. Okay. Guys, this is a significant reorganization of these departments. Okay, have we had thorough and extensive discussions with mental hygiene, with the health department, with social services, with the folks in those departments? And are most, I know it's going to be your decision, PJ, but are the folks mostly on board with this reorganization?
They are. We started this process in about August, when just to kick off, if you will. And we had, like I said, we had 6 people from each department, from social services and mental hygiene, just to start having some discussions. What happened was, I don't know if anybody else wanted to chime in who was at the meeting. It was somewhat prophetic, the way that they engaged, the way they worked with one another, and really started to open up the gates, if you will, for lack of a better term, to understand what others are doing. The intent for this was no timeline, was just take our time, let everything happen. We did have management from both departments go around to the affected departments, if you will, and explain to everybody what was going on within, I want to say, the first week or two of even these discussions. So it was very thought out, very thorough, and the plan and the model we used that Carmela submitted to me was, I took some time and looked at it and was very confident in the organizational structure and where we were going. But the two groups themselves have been working now since, I'd say, middle or early August, and have really seen a lot of success. So I did get an email from somebody that, said it would have been nice. We put the press release out that if staff would have been notified. Well, I believe the person was out of the area when that happened, because we did go around to the departments and let them know what was happening. 'Cause, again, our employees need to know. The effective change as far as reporting structure, so most of our I call boots on the ground, they're still reporting to the same immediate supervisors. Nothing has changed. I think at the end, we looked at about 7 people in our upper executive management plan that would be changing. That would be reporting to Carmelo rather than to Christine Schuyler, or in this case, Dr. Falk is the interim health and human services director. So yeah, but it was vetted, and it seems to be going well. Otherwise, I wouldn't be presenting this right now if we had any hiccups or roadblocks.
I'm sure you would.
Not to say that there aren't people that are sitting there may say back, well, we don't feel 100% on board, but we just haven't seen that wholesale opposition and a growing
Well,
concern.
You're going to get some pushback.
Yeah, certainly.
But, Steve, the law department is all on board with this. Everything is kosher, I guess, as far as the law department's concerned, these changes?
Yes, and there is conversation going on with the state agencies, and they're usually more concerned that we have persons in the leadership roles that exercise the functions of, for instance, a commissioner of social services and either public health director or health commissioner. And so we will be working with the state to make sure they're satisfied as well.
Okay. So there's a smooth transition to this reorganization.
Yeah.
And one of the things we did prior to any of this even getting going is I worked with Deb Mikowski, and we talked with Dr. Falk and have discussions, but reached out to the state and said, where do we need to be exactly? Because I didn't want to move forward and not have a plan and not reappointing Mrs. Schuyler. And, the accusers said, well, you don't know what we do. We had this all planned out prior to a decision to be made. So, again, it was, our I's were dotted, T's were crossed, and made sure we were going down the right steps so we didn't get tripped up somewhere down the line.
Well, it looks like a good idea to me if you're happy with it, PJ, and if it's going to lead to efficiencies here in the county. I'm all in favor of it. And thank you for all the time and effort you've put into it. You too, Steve.
Yeah. Hey, if we could, Dr. Falk or Carmela, if you guys wanted to come down and express your positions on this, that'd be great. I do have to say, just standing up in the back, John Anderson has been integral in this transition as well. Has been taking on he's our deputy commissioner right now for social services and interim social services director, and has done a tremendous job of leading that part of the equation going forward. So I just wanted to thank him personally. John's been instrumental in moving this forward. I'll vacate.
Good morning, I'm Dr. Mike Falk, county physician and interim public health director.
Carmelo Hernandez, Director of Mental Hygiene, Harrison County.
So yesterday, I met with the health department staff in the ranks. And because I'm a sentimental guy, I'm gonna read some of the remarks that I shared with them, because I think it's important to share here. More of a symbolic type of remarks. It's understandable that a proposed change of this magnitude naturally brings an element of trepidation, particularly amongst the dedicated and talented team members of both of these departments. However, change we know brings opportunity. The opportunity to not only reprioritize, but also to strengthen the bonds that pre-exist and perhaps reimagine new strategies as we battle the headwinds of the next wave of challenges. All of this while ensuring we always frame our mission and vision with our county residents as the focus and center of everything we do. Under the umbrella of Health and Human Services, the current and established mission, and this is quoted straight off of our website. Has been dedicated to building a healthy, safe, and strong community while protecting and promoting the health of all county residents and providing essential human services, especially for those who are least able to help themselves. While I know this mission will continue, albeit within a different framework, we now may have the opportunity to be hyper-focused on a new vision that embraces the heart of this mission. For me, being born and raised in this county, it is a privilege to serve this community and especially those most vulnerable. Over the past 2 weeks, as I've stepped into my new role as interim public health director, it is very apparent to me that these departments within Health and Human Services embrace the idea of a servant's heart. I'm confident this dedication and commitment will not only continue, but will be reinforced by a new web of collaborative connections while ensuring the established programs and initiatives do not fall through the cracks. Thank you.
Very good.
For us here, in mental hygiene. Sorry about that. For us here in mental hygiene.
Just have one mic for both. You gotta share.
Most definitely. I agree with everything that was said. I didn't type mine out. It's timely, accessible, quality care, and that's our mission statement in mental hygiene. But within looking at timely, accessible, quality care, when we did go around and when the 6 from each department met together, that was the why. Was timely, accessible, quality care. That's what we want for our residents, and it's in all aspects. If everyone was to show up to our clinics, I mean, we will be good to go and we could provide everything there. But the reality is there's some that don't even make it to the clinic. And they do touch other areas of the county, of whether it's child protective services, whether it's, just temporary assistance and homelessness. So in this wraparound, and that's the way we look at it, is providing wraparound care, true wraparound services, and meeting the client where they are, wherever that may be, whether that's at the social service office and or child protective services. And I'll share this. We had a bump in the road. We had a bump in the road with our mobile transition team and child protective services. But here was the beautiful thing that happened. We sat down and we did what I like to call an AAR, after action review. And we sat down and we collaborated on what could have we done better, where did we drop the ball? And something happened that was on them. I was just there to be referee if anything went crazy, but nothing went crazy. What we learned was they were validating each other's feelings. We understood more regulations that one team has that the other doesn't have. And the other piece that came out, we were able to obtain new resources. There were resources that Child Protective Services had that we had no idea. And then we got to learn the preventative piece of it. And that to me was huge. It was really, really the fundamental change that allowed the teams to continue to grow organically, which was having that tough conversation, but also validating and understanding where each other stood. So to me, completely agree with Dr. Falk, complete support of what he's done and what he's continuing to do. I just add my own little spin to it, but I completely would always adhere and look for his counsel, PJ as well. And we're here just to provide timely, quality, accessible care.
Good. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Any questions, comments? Seeing none, thank you very much.
Thanks, guys. Thanks.
We'll move on to the agenda. Number 1, local law. Introduction, 1522, a local law providing a management salary plan for county officers and employees. Identify yourself, please.
Good morning, Debbie Mikowski, Director of Human Resources. So I have some notes to sort of keep me on track with this conversation. So basically, what you have before you, in an effort to respond to recruitment and retention issues in a labor market that, let's be honest, none of us have ever seen before, we're requesting approval to make changes to the management group salary plan. The proposed local law that you have before you is a request to increase most positions by 3 salary grades, with a very small number of exceptions. The proposed changes will allow us to put a plan in place over the next year or so that will appropriately pay our existing employees for their years of experience in their management positions, attract and recruit the best candidates for management positions by paying a salary closer to market rates, and establish room for growth, I call runway, within the new salary grades so that we don't have to continue to request approval for the across-the-board annual increases every year for the same individuals who are close to or maxed out in their current salary grade. I'm sure you're all aware, the county paid for a third party to conduct a management salary survey. The salary survey was actually completed in April, meaning the comparisons are from market research that is nearly a year old. The proposed changes don't get us to a competitive state, they get us closer to market rate as of April. My plan in the next 3 to 4 years, conduct another market survey, see where we fall, what steps we can take proactively within the budget process to move the county into a more competitive state. With your approval to this local law, there are 6 individuals who would need an immediate increase to get them to their new minimum salary within that new range. This is the only financial impact to the proposal at this time. The calculated amount comes out to $9,948. Any salary increases will be done within the newly established ranges and within the 2023 budget, and are yet to be determined at this point. To be honest, we've lagged behind in the market for a number of years. We don't expect to right the ship quickly. It's probably gonna take a couple of years of careful consideration and planning. Again, working within the budget each year. So full disclosure, 3 new positions are included in the local law. 2 of them we just discussed. 1 additional position is not on the agenda anywhere else this morning. But I wanted to provide that opportunity now. It's the 2nd position on page 2. It is Deputy Director of Office for Aging Services, and the director is here to talk in more detail about the new position.
Thank you, Deb. And before I do that, just want to say,
Identify yourself,
I'm
please.
Dr. Mary Ann Spanos, Director of Chautauqua County Office for Aging Services, and
Thank
I'm
you.
dressed down today because it's our Santa for Seniors distribution to 170 isolated older adults. And I just want to thank all the county departments and everybody who's been involved with that. So prior to Deb coming on board as the HR director, I had had discussions with HR. Mine is one of the few departments that has 1 manager. We are a growing department. When I started, we had less than 20 employees, and we're about a $3 million budget. We're now close to 25 employees. We've taken on a lot more responsibility, and we're over $5 million budget. When the director is not available, which doesn't happen often, but I have to rely on my coordinators who are all CSEA union employees, whether it's to deal with staff issues or to present to the legislature. So this, I had a discussion with HR, about what was good for the county and the department. And, looking forward to succession planning. I'm not going to be here forever. So it's really important, I think, to have another manager as we've dealt with some discipline issues. It's hard to have a union employee disciplining another union employee. So that was the motivation behind this. HR felt that it was appropriate to have more than one manager. The position we are talking about converting to this management position is the Director of Aging Health Services. That was created a few years ago, and it has actually caused a lot of confusion because people think that is Mary Ann still there? Because we have the Director of Aging Services and the Director of Aging Health Services. So we would abolish that position. It would be the Deputy Director of Aging Services. And this would have come as a separate resolution, but the county decided to do this bigger plan. It made sense to incorporate it.
Good, thank you. Any questions, comments?
Jay, just one. Mary Ann, so this new position, Deputy Director of Office for Aging Services, okay, so in the Office for the Aging, do you have a deputy right now?
No,
You don't?
no. I mean, I have the Director of Aging Health Services who acts as my deputy, but she is not a manager. And so when we've dealt with discipline issues, it became problematic.
Okay, once upon a time, you did have a deputy director in the Office for the Aging back in the 70s?
I've kind of heard that, but I have no knowledge of that.
I worked there back then.
Well,
So this is,
Moses worked there too.
So how did it get abolished?
I'm not sure, but this is kind of just a reestablishment of that position. Yeah, I was there long before you were born, not before Moses, but before you were born. But at one point, they did have a deputy director of Office for the Aging. So this is kind of like reestablishment of that position.
Well, it makes sense. My predecessor,
It does.
when
It does, really.
she left or was let go, the department was being run by 2 union employees in the interim.
Okay.
Ron V. Klotz and
Okay. I
Mark
worked
Smith.
with Ron.
Yeah, so,
Okay.
discussions with HR, it would be good to have a second manager for many different reasons.
I think so.
I agree as well.
Any other questions, comments? Seeing none, we'll move on to number 2. We don't vote on local laws in committee.
Thank you.
Number 2, a local law providing for a management salary plan for county officers and employees, Director of Real Property Tax 3, and Director of Human Resources. Carry on.
Same conversation. We are simply carving out a separate local law proposal for 2 term positions that would otherwise be part of a 45-day waiting period. If we included these 2 positions with the larger group, then it holds up any changes with that entire group. So this just exact same conversation, just carving out these 2 positions.
Any questions? Go ahead, Dan.
Thank you. It's kind of on both of them. Is there a certain percentage that these positions have ranged up? That, I mean, is there a consistent or a rough percentage that they've increased?
Not increase, but yes, consistently, with very few exceptions, changed 3 job grades. So within those ranges, but as far as providing any type of salary increase within those new ranges, that has yet to be determined. Does that answer your question?
I'm assuming the top of all these ranges is higher than what used to be, correct?
We have not changed the ranges. We're just simply changing what range the position is assigned to.
Okay.
That answer?
Yeah, kind of.
Yeah.
It's tricky, in since everybody did it did go up, but really the range didn't change, but everybody stepped up into a new range.
Correct.
So in that
That's the
sense,
word range.
everyone, everybody's top range did go up a certain percentage.
Correct.
It's a little harder to calculate. And I'm just curious how, if that was 4%, 8%, if we knew that. And also if it would make a, but I just was curious if you knew what that was.
I don't, we,
Mr. Pavlik, are you asking how much the, like, as Deb said, the ranges themselves the top of each range did not change. But I think what you're asking is, when a position goes up 3 grades, how much does the top increase for that position from where it was to where it could be today? Is that the question?
Yeah.
Yeah, kinda.
I don't have those figures in front of me, but Deb, I think you,
we.
Did calculate
We did
that.
calculate. I don't have them in front of me, though. I could get you that information.
Email them to us.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
but just to clarify that all of the positions, the 23 budget includes a 3% increase for managers, so that 3% is included in the adopted 23 budget for all positions. And the budget for those positions, other than the 6 that Deb mentioned, those budgets are not changing at this time. And they, so all of those budgets they are all within the new range, even though the range has a higher number. The dollar amount for the positions does not change at this time.
And I just want to be, I'm in support of the range changes. It's, needed. I think that as a county, we want to seek that retention, and we want to make sure people are compensated accurately. I just wanted to know exactly what we were okaying in the local law, what those changes were, so we knew. So, thank you.
Yeah, so the immediate impact is, at this time, only gonna be that $9,948. Any salary increases will be held within that 2023 budget.
That's good.
Good. Thank you.
Thanks, Deb.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Moving on, proposed resolution number 3, amend 2022 adopted budget, Department of Public Facilities, Airports.
Good morning.
Good
Shannon
morning.
Barnhart, Manager of Airports. I'm here this morning to request an increase to the airport's 2022 budget using the fund balance. We had some unfortunate things happen that were unanticipated at the end of the year, and the information that you have in front of you probably shows, an increase to each of the categories. We may or may not be over right at this time in some of the categories, but we have 2 weeks left in the end of the year, so what we are asking for takes that into consideration. We've worked with the DPF, and there was no room for movement between the departments, so we've also worked with Kathleen in the budget department and have calculated personal services, employee benefits, everything that would get us through to the end of the year. Part of that increase was, my salary, Ron was part-time previously, so this would be that as well. We hired an accounting supervisor this year. We had one person retire. We've had the cleaning services in there, things that were just not anticipated when we did the budget last year. When I did not do the budget last year, but when it was done. In the fall of this year, November, we ended up having boiler issues at both airports. One will need to be replaced by the end of the year. We're still waiting for that to come. So all of these costs may not have been incurred quite yet, but they're anticipated by the end of December of this year. We also, as you know, had the restaurant, we have someone come in and fulfill that space for a caterer. We had a lot of items that weren't working at all, that just needed to be repaired. The oven, the coolers, refrigerator, things just to get her going. We haven't spent a ton of money on that. We could have done a lot more, but just to get her up and going.
What do you do?
Personal services and employee benefits were also two of the areas that, in addition to the contractual accounts that we're asking to increase.
Mr. Chairman, if I could add a comment.
Good.
I just want to point out that the reason this resolution is coming to you now is that the airports are being proactive in advising the committee that there are some areas that are running over budget. There's a lot of changes in this resolution, as you can see. We could have made these changes at the end of the year because these classifications would have to be amended because they're over budget, but we thought it was prudent to advise you now rather than waiting for the end of the year resolution in February. And as Shannon mentioned, unfortunately, we don't foresee that the overage can be balanced within the A fund for DPF. So that is why we're asking for use of fund balance at this time. At the end of the year, we are anticipating that there will be some surpluses in sales tax. Some of the departments that can't self-balance at the end of the year, generally we use excess sales tax to balance that budget, but obviously we're not to the point of doing that now, so that's why we're asking for the use of fund balance at this time.
Fund balance will be fine, taking this money out of fund balance.
Yes, fund balance is currently around in excess of $25 million. So we expect that this will be sustainable.
Any questions, comments,
Well,
Mr. Nebel?
okay. Shannon, look, as a rule, I'm against using fund balance. I'd like to see this balanced within your accounts, but you, Tim, and I guess Kathleen, the budget director, have looked at all your accounts, and there's no way that you can cover this shortage within your other accounts. Is that correct?
We have done that, yes. And
Okay.
Sam, I don't know if you want to add anything to
No,
that.
that's correct. The airports will not be able to self-balance. And there is no additional funding within the A fund of public facilities to balance them currently.
All right.
And I
Okay.
know, we did ask for an increase a little in our budget for next year in anticipation that things like this, we don't have to come back and do this again next year.
Well, not too much extra, I hope.
No, not too much extra, but just
All
to
right.
cover what we thought was needed.
Okay, for a possible shortfall.
Yep.
Okay, all right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions?
Just one
Tom.
comment, Chair. I really like this approach, proactive approach to this. I think it makes it easier in the long run. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
Any other comments? Seeing none, we'll vote on this. All in favor of it, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Number 4, amend 2022 budget, adopted budget, SCCLSD. South Chautauqua Lake Sewer District.
I'm Kathleen Dennison, Budget Director for Chautauqua County, and I'm here today on behalf of the South and Center Chautauqua Lake Sewer Districts. This resolution, as you can see, proposes to move funds from one organization in the sewer districts, Department 8130, into 8120. And the reason is that the department has one individual who is budgeted in 8130, but actually working in 8120. So just moving those funds from one department to another, and in the 2023 budget, the organization has already
Correct.
budgeted for that position in the 8120 sub-department, or 8120 organization, I should say.
Any questions? Comments? Seeing none? We'll vote on resolution number 4. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Resolution number 5, amend 2022 adopted budget environmental landfill.
Good morning, Aaron Gustafson, Manager, Stock County Landfill. This resolution is just to move some money from our smaller .2 accounts where we found ourselves slightly over budget with some overestimated costs on laptops, some other computer accessories, and a unexpected cutoff saw purchase. We're looking to take $2,369 out of a revenue account for sale of recyclables that we found ourselves over in, and move it to the equipment environment landfill .2 account. Again, just like Kathleen said, we're just trying to be ahead of the game and bring this to you before the end of the year. Pretty straightforward. Any questions?
Dan?
You're pulling money out of the sale of the recyclables account. How favorable is that account?
In the $40,000 range.
Unexpected? I mean,
Yeah, we're ahead of the, we didn't expect to make that much this year, and so that's a positive. So we're gonna increase that account budgetarily, which means take a little of that revenue out of it.
yeah, perfect. Thank you.
Yeah? Any other questions?
Any other questions? Seeing none? We'll vote on resolution number 5. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Resolution number 6, authorized lease of office space in the city of Dunkirk. I believe we have a resolution on our desk, a changed resolution.
Good morning.
Good
Drew
morning.
Rogers, Deputy Director of Public Facilities Engineering. The Department of Health and Human Services in Dunkirk are proposing to move from the North County Office Building located on Central Ave in the city of Dunkirk to a location at 15 Lucas Avenue in the city of Dunkirk also. 15 Lucas Avenue is a standalone building with off-street parking. It's owned by Agricultural Land Holdings LLC, the same building owner that owns the Dunkirk Ag Building that Mental Hygiene and Probation Departments moved into earlier this year. The 15 Lucas Avenue location is approximately 10,500 square feet. The base rent is $15.05 per square feet, which includes all utilities, taxes, cleaning services, building and parking lot maintenance, new flooring, new lighting, and a building generator. The base rent is subject to a 3.5% per year increase. There would be an overall savings compared to the current location at North County Office Building. The current space occupied on 2 floors of North County Office Building is over 12,000 square feet, roughly 12,370, with a current square footage rate of $20.35 per square foot. So this resolution would authorize the county executive to execute the lease agreement for this proposed relocation to Lucas Avenue.
Mr. Abdallah?
So just to add to that, think, Mr. Chairman, you referred to a resolution that's on your desk, a different resolution, that could come up under other, but actually might be more appropriate to go ahead and do after you act on the pending resolution. This would extend our time as needed only at the Graff Building into '23 while renovations and build-outs occur for the new space that DSS will be occupying. It's the same terms and conditions that we had for 2022, and the landlord is willing to prorate our rent as of the day we exit. So this just allows us the ability to carry over until the new space is ready. We put through the end of the year, that won't be necessary, but it's just there, I guess you could say, for all contingencies. So that's where we're at in this transition.
Good. Any questions, comments?
Jay, just one. But, okay, so this lease is for 10 years? 23 to 32?
That's the proposal, yes.
10-year lease. Okay, isn't that a little high? Most of the leases that you've done before, whether it's public defenders at Jamestown City Hall or some of these other leases have been, I think, at the most 5 years. Why 10? And that's just, I'm just curious.
Yeah. I'm not sure why 10, 100%, but
Okay, at
there's
least
a
you're honest.
significant, there's a significant amount of work to go into switching a whole department out of one location to another. And the location works out very well. The building sets up very well for this department, and I guess there wasn't an anticipation that there would be a need to relocate within 5 years.
Okay, I think if you check, Mr. Rogers, you'll find most of our leases are, for the most part, 5 years at the most. But this is a little outside that, but, I mean, if you think it's warranted, that's fine, if you've looked into it and.
The monthly rent is substantially less based on a 10-year lease than a 5-year lease. That's part of the leasing market. It's also not ideal to keep moving around our public-facing services. We do tend to stay in a place that is a good place, and so we thought best to take advantage of that savings, which will increase available funding to, we have to move our furniture, we have to do a little work on the building. So increase our savings in the current year to go with the 10-year lease. And it increased our savings in the future just because we got lower rent.
Okay,
And-
Val, so you've looked at the 5-year versus the 10-year, and you think there's a significant saving for 10 lease as opposed to 5?
Yeah, and the landlord did propose a rate for a 5-year lease. That rate was $17.29 per square foot annually
Versus the 1505?
versus
yeah?
1505, yeah.
All right. Okay. Pretty significant. All right,
Yeah.
thanks.
Good. Any more discussion? Dan?
What is what is the rate per square foot at 10 years? I'm sure you have it calculated out. It would take me a while to compute that.
The yearly rate?
It's increasing by 3.5% per year for 10 years. So what's 15.05 times 1.035 times? So what's the end result? I'm just curious what we'll be paying year 10 per square foot.
Kathleen might have it.
I did not calculate the actual square foot in 10 years, but I did look at the annual savings for this arrangement versus the North County office building, and that estimated savings through 2032 is $1 million, approximately $1 million.
Do we know a cost per square foot? I keep this in mind because then I
you know, in future negotiations and contracts, I know we'll be paying this for this one, and so you know, that's all. I just wanna know what that's gonna end up
I'm
being.
calculating.
She'll have the answer momentarily.
Thank you.
I believe in year 10, it comes out to $21.23 per square foot in year 10.
Thank you.
Okay. We'll vote on resolution number 6. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carried. And we'll go right to resolution, I've numbered it 24. Authorize extension of lease agreement with GH Graft Building LLC for office space in Dunkirk, New York. And I believe the county attorney has given us a pretty good reason for that lease agreement. It's extension of what we're doing there now, so they can continue where they are until the new building is ready for them. Any questions, comments?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I have one comment. Actually, the number I just gave you would be year 11 of the lease. Year 10 rate is $20.51 per square foot annually.
Any other comments? Seeing none, we'll vote on resolution number 24. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carried. Thanks, Drew. Resolution number 7, accept of the Federal Transit Administration COVID relief funds for operating assistance. Good, that's good, run.
Good morning, I'm Michelle Westfall, Senior Project Coordinator at CARTS. We're here this morning to request approval to accept operating assistance from New York State Department of Transportation through the CRISA Act of $970,000 and the American Rescue Plan Act, ARPA, for $1.3 million to use towards our operating assistance for CARTS.
Any questions, comments?
That's a little chunk of change, isn't it?
Seeing none? All in favor of resolution number 7, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Resolution number 8. Proposed resolution, CART, section 5311, consolidation, operation, and capital grant application request.
I am here this morning to request approval to submit an application to New York State Department of Transportation for a 5311 grant. In this grant, we're going to have 13 new buses to replace 13 replacement buses. We're going to have cameras for the buses so that we have cameras on the interior for the protection of the drivers and passengers. Replacement tablets for our drivers. We have to replace those every 2 years. They don't last beyond 2 years. That's what they get their manifest on. We have the chargers in the buses that charge them. We need 3 new radios for our new trolleys that we just got. We also are requesting a new replacement vehicle for our administration van. We can get that at a 10% local share opposed to leasing a van, so it just makes sense. And with this grant, everything that I've mentioned is an 80% federal, 10% state, and a 10% local share. We also have our mobility management position that is covered under this grant, and that is also 80% federal, 10% straight state, and then we do a 10% in-kind for our local share for that position. So if this is, we do this every 2 years, that's why we have 13 buses. Normally it would be 12, but we had to add one on because the price went up, and we were able to get one less last year, so in order to keep everything running, we're requesting the 13 buses.
Any comments, questions, discussion? Seeing none, we'll vote on resolution number 8. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Carried.
Thank you.
Thank you. Proposed resolution number 9, amend 2022 capital project account DPF, large equipment.
Good morning, Sam Zafuto, Fiscal Supervisor, Public Facilities. This resolution is to take the proceeds from the sale from our large heavy equipment over this past year, which have included several dump trucks, pickup trucks, plow blades, walk-behind snow blowers, etc., and to use that to continue making purchases of replacement heavy equipment. This has kind of been what we've done in the past with the surplus of the revenue, and we're looking for your approval to continue this process and to continue purchasing heavy equipment.
Any questions, comments?
I just have one, Mr. Chair. Are you in need of anything right now, or is there anything that you're in absolute need of?
Yeah, they were looking for a post-hole pounding truck, which actually comes in around 300,000. We still do have some money that we haven't spent from this year, but this would allow us to complete that purchase.
Thank you.
Any other questions, comments? Seeing none. All in favor of resolution number 9, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Resolution number 10, amend 2022 budget for Public Facilities Engineering Division.
Yes, we had a change in the status of a couple of our employees in the engineering division. We actually had a change. They had a change in this health insurance election. So this is kind of being proactive before year end, since we did go over budget in the .8s already for engineering, to bring this resolution to balance the accounts now. It's coming from a surplus in the base pay account of the maintenance of road account due to vacancies throughout this year. So we're just being proactive to get this done now instead of waiting through the end of the year process.
Thank you.
Any comments, questions? Seeing none, we'll vote on resolution number 10. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Resolution number 11, authorize transfer of tax for closed properties to Jamestown Urban Renewal Agency.
Yes, Steve Abdallah, County Attorney. One of our Assistant County Attorneys, Todd Thomas, who presented at Administrative Services, had to go to court, so I'm going to be filling in for Todd. Also with us.
Some excuse.
Yeah.
Some
that-
excuse.
Is that a legal excuse?
I'm Benjamin Haskin, the Associate Corporation Counsel for the City of Jamestown and Counsel for the Jamestown Urban Renewal Agency.
Gee,
So, yeah, under our, the county legislature's tax foreclosure property, we give the policy, we have the, give the opportunity to outside municipalities, and in this case, local development agencies, to express interest in properties in our tax foreclosure. And these are a number of properties that were requested by Jura, and I can let Benjamin just give you a brief description of them, and then partly arising out of the discussion of administrative services, we have a potential amendment to the resolution, add a resolve clause that we can discuss in a minute. But Ben, yeah, why don't you go ahead and discuss the property list?
And I'll start with referencing directly the 19A program properties, as those are included in the amendment. That program, essentially, the city is acquiring vacant properties with tax arrears through various processes. In this case, these ones, obviously, through the tax sale that we had started 19A proceedings under the real property actions law in the state to acquire them. So the whole purpose of the program is they've assigned us ARPA funds to rehab these properties, sell them to people who will reside there for 5 years, will pay the taxes on time for 5 years, will maintain insurance on the property for 5 years, and will also take care of any code enforcement issues that arise on the property post-rehab over the course of 5 years. The properties that are in that program are 49 Utica Street, 810 North Main Street, 20 Johnson Street, 18 Catlin Avenue, and the Catlin Avenue lot because they adjoin. So we're probably going to just make them one lot upon resale. 58 Cowden Place, 73 Beach Street, 114 Park Street, 177 Barker Street, 269 Broadhead Avenue, 71 Barker Street, and 94 Howard Street. So, Mr. I believe it was Chagnon asked on the Monday meeting whether there was some sort of memorandum of agreement between the county, and that has been sent over to the county attorney's office as of Tuesday. So I wanted to just reassure everyone that we were waiting on like a small little tax thing. So under this program, we pay the tax lien on it that is owed to the county back to them at the time of sale. If any additional taxes accrue between the time we acquire it and the time it's sold, which is obviously going to happen because it's pretty much the new year at this point, those taxes will be included. We're not freezing the taxes owed. We're allowing them to run. Additionally, these properties are kind of going to be taken on a property by property basis. Some are going to be sold probably at market rate in order to bring more money in to make the program sustainable. Some of the other ones are going to be kind of aimed towards first-time homeowners who have gone through some sort of first-time homeownership program.
And some demolished, possibly?
There's always a possibility that some will end up demolished. We're trying to avoid that. If, gun to my head, I have to choose one on this list that might end up there, it's probably the one on Howard Street. But we did include in the memorandum of agreement a way of dealing with that. So we won't pay all the taxes back, but we will pay, if we demolish it ourselves, 1 year. And if it's handed off to the land bank for demolition, we'll pay 2 years of back taxes on those properties.
all right.
So, I mean, we can't obviously throw the full thing out there
Yeah,
when we're
yeah.
not able to bring in a return for ourselves.
Understood.
But we wanted to make sure the county at least got something back in those
I just
situations.
wondered about the
Yeah.
demos. All right.
So at the time of sale, obviously, the first amount of money gets set aside to pay off the tax lien. Of the money that we make past that on each sale, 10% will come to the county, 5 to go to the land bank, and 5 to just go into the county's general fund. We want to make this a mutually beneficial relationship for everybody. So I thought that was kind of important to include. So that's kind of a basic overview of those properties. 511 Halleck, to kind of just go through the other ones, is a unique property. It's on the little sliver of Halleck that comes off of Jones and Gifford in the swamp, that's one that we've acquired, and I think the county land bank and the city are gonna kind of collaborate on figuring out something to do with that place. The 4 lots on Allen Street and 232, 234 East Second, and the adjoining East Second Street lot are economic development. 232, 234 is an empty row building, and the lot is right next door. It's in a place I think we had to tear down a building that partially collapsed a few years back. So that'll be kind of marketed as a commercial sort of thing, as will the 4 lots on Allen, which are all kind of adjoining. The remaining lots, with the exception of the Catlin one I mentioned, are just lots in kind of fringe neighborhoods where the city's plan is to generally transfer them to a neighbor, so they're actually taken care of, taxes are actually paid on them. A lot of these are places where grass has gone uncut for years. People are dumping their garbage on it because there's no effective ownership. And I think that's a pretty good run-through of all the properties on this list. The memorandum of agreement and the, 10% and paying back of the taxes solely references the 19A properties. That's my program. I believe, and I'm only going on what Todd said when this question came up last time's meeting, that the rest of them are gonna kind of just be handled like the properties that you would transfer over to the land bank. So I guess I'd be more than happy to take any further questions from anyone.
Seems like we've been stalking each other. We've seen you at a lot of meetings. Thank you for what you do.
I appreciate it.
The 19A program is something the city of Jamestown is taking a hold of and really starting to run with it. It's going to be a great opportunity for the city to actually make a difference in some of the blighted areas that go on there. And I would ask that this committee certainly approve this and look forward to some real resolutions in the city of Jamestown. Thank you for what you do.
Thank you.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, so the amendment that's underlined that I handed out does reference that juror would pay the county $1 and all recording costs for all of the properties listed below. And then for those properties renovated and resold in the 19A program, all county tax liens would be satisfied at the time of resale.
Steve, what about the 10% that he'd mentioned earlier?
Attorney Todd Thomas and I have been working on a memorandum of agreement. It's pretty much drafted at this point.
Okay, so we don't need that in here at this time, the 10%?
When you say 10%.
Well, Ben, didn't you say
Yes.
the 10% would come to the county
Of
above and
the additional
beyond the
money
the tax liens that
after
are paid
tax
to the
liens,
county?
yeah. So if
Okay.
there was 6,000 of tax liens, and we sold it for 20,000. The
Okay.
county would end up with, I believe,
1,400?
1,400,
All right.
700 to the land bank, 700 to the
county.
to the county's just general
Okay.
fund budget,
Gotcha.
and that is included in the memorandum of agreement
Okay,
that we.
I'm just wondering,
put
should
together.
that be included in this resolution or no? About the 10%?
I will defer to your.
Yeah, I mean,
Well,
we-
okay, one of you guys.
we can, yeah,
It's just
the
a
last
thought.
resolve, yeah, I mean, certainly we're on the record with that now. It says resolved that the county executive is hereby authorized to negotiate additional terms. So that would be
Does that
inclusive.
cover it, Steve, the
Yeah, that
additional
covers
terms?
it, but I mean, I'm happy
Okay.
to, all county tax liens will be satisfied at the time of resale.
Including the 10%?
And an additional,
Yeah.
10%?
10%.
Above the tax
proceeds?
liens?
Of the
tax liens
proceeds.
paid.
Post payment of the tax lien.
Okay.
Or after the payment of the tax lien, yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah.
So, and the addition, how is that 10% computed? Is it on the gross?
Yeah, gross.
Okay. So
we're not subtracting any of our costs for
Okay.
rehab or anything like that, it's just on the gross sale.
So we can just add, and an additional 10% of the gross proceeds shall be repaid.
It's just a thought, Steve.
Yeah.
I'm thinking it might make it clear and.
Yeah,
Okay.
sure.
It's a good idea, too.
Is it's an additional 10 plus 5 though, correct? Is that right? Am I understanding that correctly?
It's 10% split equally, 5% of the land bank, 5% of the general fund. So 10% split.
So the
5,
county
5.
only gets 5%.
Well, yes, the county only gets 5, but I mean, the land bank I've heard is going to be very appreciative for any additional.
No, I just didn't want the agreement to say that the county's getting 10% when it's not, correct?
So, yeah, so we'll state,
Make the
as it says right now,
distinction.
all county tax liens will be satisfied at the time of resale, and an additional 5% of the proceeds shall be paid to the county, and an additional 5% of the gross proceeds shall be paid to the Chautauqua County Land Bank.
Okay.
The gross proceeds beyond the tax liens,
Beyond the tax, yes, huh?
Yes.
Yes,
Right.
after tax liens.
after tax liens.
Okay.
Because there will be some, I think we've got a few people lined up that are going to rehab the house out of their own pocket and just buy it for what's owed on the tax liens, so.
Okay.
So that's, I think, at most, maybe 2 of them, so.
Okay. And Ben, the last question I had, the 19A program originally was just for vacant land,
It's,
but has it been expanded to include single-family
It
residences?
includes everything up to 3-family residences currently. But I
Okay.
believe there was an amendment in the state budget this year that is going to allow it to also in the future happen on 4+ unit residential.
Oh, okay.
And also commercial and possibly industrial
All right.
properties. So
Okay.
it might have to reevaluate our kind of strategy with it once that's through, but at the current time, it's just three
It's-
unit or less residential.
It's evolving.
It's evolving.
Okay.
Everything's always evolving.
Gotcha. All right, thanks.
Thank you.
So the additional amendment to the amendment,
Amendment to the amendment.
I think we'll try to go with, if everyone agrees, that last phrase will be, all county tax liens will be satisfied at the time of resale, and an additional 5% of the gross proceeds shall be paid to the county, and an additional 5% of the gross proceeds shall be paid to the Chautauqua County Land Bank after payment of the tax liens.
I think we've hit it on the head this time, everybody.
Close enough.
Okay, we need a motion to bring the amended resolution to the floor.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
The amended resolution is on the floor. Is there any discussion on it? Any more discussion on it? Seeing none, we'll vote on it. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Just like to thank you all for your time this morning. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Thanks, man.
We move on to proposed resolution number 12, authorize increase in county clerk fees, mortgage tax.
Good morning. Larry Barmore,
morning.
County Clerk. Every month we get a report on our mortgage tax, and we get a amount for our administration. And recently, in conversation with other county clerks, I was informed that we're supposed to figure the amount that we get every year or two. In the past, I thought this was just set by the state, and it isn't. Obviously, none of my predecessors knew this either, or it would be changed by now. But there's a special form you set out. You figure your cost of collecting and administering the mortgage tax program. And so I looked at all the recordings that we do, and 30% of our work in the recording department has to do with mortgages and mortgage tax. So you apply to the state after the legislature approves the resolution for your actual cost of operating this program. So 30% of the two ladies' salaries and benefits that do the recording and distribution things is included in the amount. My financial lady, 20% of her salary and benefits, and then my deputy, 10%, myself, 5%. We're also allowed to figure in 30% of our software program, which is where it's all, listed. And we're also allowed to declare 30% of our occupancy. And even though this is not something that's directly in our department budget, on behalf of the county itself, we can declare our heat, our electric, our maintenance and all that and on this. And then we get this amount of money off the top before it goes to the state and elsewhere. So in figuring it out, I went to the legislature and we could not find a resolution where the current amount was ever established. But the same amount we get today is the amount we got on June of 2011 when we first started our IQS software rent, monthly thing.
73,000.
Right, currently we get 73,000 annually, but our current cost is 141,000 and change. And so we can increase our monthly off the top for administration from $6,098 to $11,817 per month to pay our actual cost of operating this program. So this is all additional income for our department, which ultimately just ends up back in the county general fund.
Go ahead.
Larry, so what is the mortgage tax now, currently?
The mortgage tax,
Yeah.
it's 1 1/4% of whatever the mortgage is,
Per thousand?
per whatever,
1 1/4, you said?
1 1/4%, yeah.
Guess I'll put it to 1.5.
No, it doesn't increase the mortgage tax.
Okay.
It just increases the
What
amount
you
we
get.
get to keep
Okay.
before we send it on. Like I say, it's just an increase in the income of our budget, so it's going to go back into the general fund.
Okay, to follow up on Jay's comment, okay, so the mortgage tax is currently 1.25.
Yep, and it will continue to be there.
Okay, understood, but
Yep.
what could it be? What is the cap? Do you know? offhand?
Whatever your legislators decide.
Well, no, there's gotta be some sort of state cap, right?
I don't know,
we can't
I
just-
think they get like 1 3/4 in Erie County. And,
you can't charge like 5 or 10%. There's gotta be.
well, of course
some
not,
sort
we'd
of-
all get unelected, but,
Well,
other
okay,
than that, yeah.
I'm just asking, what the.
I don't
range
know
might-
if there is a state cap. I guess that'd be a legislative question or legal system.
No, it's something that.
Because I don't set the mortgage tax. I just administer the program.
Okay.
I have no idea. Maybe Steve knows.
Yeah, do you know the answer, Mr. Della?
I know we set the rate, but I just wonder if there's a range that it could be set at. Yeah, I'm sure there is.
Oh.
I don't know what it is though.
Yeah, I'd have to look back, but I think what we have now was specifically authorized by the state legislature to get the additional, I think the last quarter that we got, we needed that special legislation and many counties have it.
To
So,
be approved by the state? So
yes.
We set a rate and then it's approved by the state?
The standard rate is 1% in answer to your question, and then the county voted
Okay.
an additional
All right.
0.25% 15 years ago or so.
And the state gave permission for that.
Okay.
Whether they've given any other county permission for something higher than that, we'd have to look.
Well, Larry just mentioned Erie County's at 1.75.
Yeah, and the only reason I know that is because County Executive Horgan came to me and wanted to know if we could increase ours to 1.75, and I says, yeah, if you want all the taxpayers to revolt and come to Mayville, so, we dropped that one fast.
Just a question.
Yeah.
Dan?
My question is, this number can be looked at every year as long as
Yes.
if our so how do we not let this fall through the cracks again?
If I don't come before you next year at this time with another one of these, ask me why not, I guess.
We'll call you.
It's just, I understand, and there's, I'm thankful that you found this, and I'm thankful you're making the correction. It's just, I know our processes sometimes, and if you don't remember to do it, or it's an elected position as a clerk, what if the next clerk doesn't know?
Unfortunately, when you're elected to a position, you don't have anybody to train you.
Sure.
So you learn all the stuff by yourself over a period of time.
You need a notebook, hand it down.
I mean, would this be a revenue you would show in your budget?
Not next year, because the budget's already set, but we would be coming out this much more over in our budget for revenue.
Because I think if you put that in as a line item revenue, standalone line item revenue, I mean, then.
We could, I
it
mean,
would be-
right now, it is part of it is part of the clerk fees. And as Larry indicated, I mean, the 2023 budget, if you look at the commentary in that line, it's specified that $6,098 per month of, the mortgage tax recording fee, that's budgeted at that. So, I mean, I suppose we could make it a separate account or a separate sub-account.
Kitty, you had something?
Well, the balance of mortgage taxes that we receive back from the county, is dedicated to the repayment for debt service. So there's a couple of components to the big picture here. So increasing the amount that goes to the county clerk reduces, there's a total pot of mortgage taxes collected, and then there's a distribution of it that covers the fees in the county clerk, and then the balance that the county gets, and then the balance that's shared with municipalities. So it's in the big picture, it really has kind of, not a material effect on the county's overall budget. But I don't see any need to create a new account for this. It would just still get.
I mean, the only reason I would potentially suggest that would be it would remove the need to do this resolution to adjust it. If on an annual basis you were calculating what the expected costs were to administer the mortgage tax, and that was set out as a separate revenue line item, that would act as the legislature's approval of that new amount for the coming year.
But,
on top of
mortgage
that-
taxes go up and down every year. There's not a fixed cost for that. And you'd only be projecting it in each year's budget what it's going to be next year. You don't know what the actual cost is gonna be to it,
No, but if this is a figure that we're going to look at each year, right, Larry, you're gonna do this in the future, then I tend to agree with Steve. I think it should be a separate line item.
I mean,
Matters not to me one way or the other.
Well, no,
guess.
I mean, this is something we can work out, but I think it makes more sense. And then that way we'd also have a precedent. We could look at that each year.
I mean, the point would be, as you are doing now, I think, you're fixing the number irrespective of what amount actually comes in next year. It's just deciding this is the administrative cost that's going to be taken off that mortgage tax revenue to pay for the administration. So.
Yeah, you know, it's gonna increase Larry's budget a little bit, decrease the amount that gets recorded on, you know, that applies to debt service, and decrease a little bit of the share that goes to the municipalities. So, like I said, overall, there's not a material impact to the overall budget.
Well, it also decreases the amount we send to Sony May,
Correct. Yeah.
which we never see again.
What's the feeling of the committee? Should it be a separate item?
I think it
Budget
should,
item?
I think it should be, especially if it's gonna be addressed each year.
Yep. Sure, and the reason being, I just don't want it to fall through the cracks again, in the sense that we want it to be correct, and also we want the department to be able to, account for it properly, and also. you
And
know,
I
you've
think
been-
I've been rather conservative too in my figures, because counties smaller than us are getting $400,000 a year, and how they come up with that, I have no idea.
Check into it.
No. Okay. Pretty well discussed that. Number 12, we'll vote on it. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carried.
If I could
Num-
take just a couple more minutes of your time, I have a couple FYIs for you guys. When we discussed changes in the budget at the last meeting, and we found an additional $30,000 in revenue to cover increased payroll. I decided to start going through everything we're doing in our department and see what I could find. I told you we were gonna come up with that money by reassessing how we charged for access to our online software system by attorneys, surveyors, title search companies, et cetera, et cetera. Anyways, by doing that, changing things more in line to what other counties are doing, I estimate that we're going to come up with an additional $46,000 on top of the $30,000 that we'd found before. And also, our software contract is up for renewal this year. I was able to renew the contract for 5 more years at no increase. It was brought to my attention when looking at this that all our equipment's owned by our software vendor. All our computers, our scanners, our printers. If a computer breaks today, they have a new one here tomorrow, but IT still has to set it up. So I went and I talked to John D'Angelo, and if we set aside $300 a month for equipment, it would more than cover every piece of equipment that we have in our department, you know, for almost a bi-yearly change, and we only change most of the stuff every 5 years. And we're paying the software vendor $1,400 a month for the privilege. So we got a new contract without the equipment coming from the software vendor, so taking out that $300 a month to use with our own IT department, that saves us $1,100 a month, which is another $13,200 a year in additional revenue we'll be showing next year. And that's it.
Good. Thank
So,
you.
so
Good
altogether, between these 3 things, our revenue should go up almost $128,000 next year over what we budgeted, so we'll have quite a surplus.
That sounds great. Thank you very much, Mr. Barmore.
Thank you.
Proposed resolution number 13, set salary for grant specialist.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. Derek Gregory for the Public Defender's Office.
Debbie Makowski, Director of HR.
So this resolution asks for the Audit and Control Committee and the legislature to approve the salary for a grant specialist. This is a new position to the county. Just for some background, as you're all aware, the Public Defender's Office receives substantial grant funds. I think at this point, probably 70% of our budget is funded by grants. As part of the HH grant, the Harrell Herring grant, there's a position that's very central to the grant called the data officer. We've had this position filled twice with very talented individuals. However, the salary is not particularly competitive. We advocated to Indigent Legal Services to fund a much higher salary to retain an individual in this position. This position is central to the grant, probably the most important position in the grant, and we need continuity. We worked very closely with the HR to provide a job description, and then they have graded it as a competitive grade 15. And the position is fully funded by Indigent Legal Services, so there's not going to be any local funding. And so we're asking you to approve that.
Any questions, comments? Seeing none, all in favor of the proposed resolution 13, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Thank you.
Resolution 14, amend 2023 budget for 2023 Employment Focused Grant Award.
Good morning, Gilbert Taylor with probation. I'm here for the resolution, I have to put on my glasses, to accept a $247,000 grant from DCJS for our employment focus. It's actually an increase in our grant. We did have a 5-year grant for employment focused. It was $216,000. This has gone up this year, so it's being funded in it. It really just covers our expense for a senior probation officer, a contractor, and then for some supplies and such. And there was questions. I want to apologize for not being here last night. The purpose of this grant and this program is to take medium and high-risk offenders that are on probation and help them to develop job skills, potentially find employment, and hopefully in the long run, reduce recidivism among those in our higher risk levels.
Any discussion? Comments? Seeing none, all in favor of resolution 14, say aye.
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 Opposed? Carried. Thank you very much.
Thanks. Have a good day.
Proposed resolution number 15, authorize agreements between Chautauqua County EMS, CCEMS, and any village fire district or independent fire department within Chautauqua County for ALS-BLS joint pre-hospital service agreements. Don't you have a shorter title than that, sir?
More abbreviations?
We'll work on that. Noel Gutman, Director of Emergency Services. This resolution is to help us streamline the process for fire departments and districts that wish to partner with us on the EMS billing aspect. Instead of having to come to each individual department, a separate resolution, this is under, working with our county legal office to develop a little more streamlined process to make this a little more efficient.
Any questions, comments? Seeing none, all in favor of resolution 15, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Can I ask a question even though we moved on? Sometimes it takes me a minute to think of one.
Too late. Go ahead, Dan.
Does this, by adding, we have an agency that does this billing for us, correct? Does this adding all these extras, does it overburden them in sense, or are they able to keep up? I know that, you know, it's quite a process. and-
Every billing agency we've talked to, ours included, has, with the change in the law allowing all the departments in the state, they've all become very busy.
Yes.
It was a unexpected law to pass, as we've discussed. So many of those billing companies are revamping their business model to adjust to that.
And, I mean, we should expect to see slower results from them as well, correct?
Results have been consistent so far. It's just, you know, sometimes get the information. It's
Delayed, I guess,
Yeah.
delayed.
But they have noticeably, all the ones across the state that we've talked to or have knowledge of have seen a noticeable increase in business.
Thank you.
Any other comments, questions? We voted on this already, didn't we?
Yeah, we did.
It was carried. I'll move on to 16, amend the 2022 budget to implement the OES dive boat project within Chautauqua County American Rescue Plan Act ARP spending plan.
So as part of one of our ARPA projects, we had the replacement of the dive boat. That project was, at the time, was estimated to be 135. After bidding, that project came in at 183, I believe it was. So we're asking to use a little bit more of the undesignated ARPA funds to cover the cost of completing that project.
Any questions?
No, you'd hire Jay to be the skipper on this dive
I think we discussed that last night, yeah.
We did.
Someone had mentioned Gilligan as well?
Well, you're gonna have to move that boat to Florida.
I can do that.
I'd be glad to float it around down there.
We can work on that.
Any other discussion on it? Seeing none, we'll vote on resolution number 16. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Resolution number 17. FY 2020 Technical Rescue and Urban Search and Rescue Grant.
So this resolution is to authorize the county executive to accept this grant. This is a competitive grant through New York State. This year, we were one of 8 teams across the state that received it. It's grants for $105,000 for replacement of equipment that has aged out or timing out, and also some additional training. And as I said yesterday, I've been waiting to say this is a no local share grant. So,
That's good to hear. Any questions, comments? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carried. Number 18, authorize acceptance of indigent legal services grant for the period January 1st, 2023 to December 31st, 2025.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman.
Good morning.
I'm Mr. Derek Gregory, appearing on behalf of the Public Defender's Office for Mr. Barone. I know Mr. Barone is very happy to relate to the Audit and Control Committee in the legislature that we've received grant funding for 3 years at $250,000 a year for a grant to fund an additional assistant public defender and a senior caseworker in the family court division. I know for the last couple of years we've related to the legislature the need for additional personnel in the family court division, and we're happy that we were able to obtain outside funding from Indigent Legal Services as opposed to utilizing local share to pay for these positions. This will be 100% funded by Indigent Legal Services. There's no matching share. We have a 3-year budget. The salaries have been projected to increase during each of the 3 years, commensurate with our historical experience. So I don't know if there's any questions.
Any questions? Seeing none, we'll vote on this. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carried.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. Number 19, amend 2022 budget appropriations to mental hygiene for MH Law 43.03. That's good, run.
Carmelo Hernandez, Chautauqua County Mental Hygiene. So this is the infamous three numbers that we don't like, the 730 law, mental hygiene law, where individuals, incarcerated individuals, and or just individuals that are in the county, but this is more for the incarcerated, where we send them up in the sense it could be either the judge, it could be their attorney, it could also be the district attorney, to see if they seem fit to stand trial for whatever they're being charged with. Unfortunately, when it comes to the 730, we are 100% responsible for it. Whether they are found fit to stand trial or they found unfit to stand trial, and that's due to the state. The state has made us 100% responsible. Good news is that we're advocating at the state level. We also had some collaborations the DCSs did, in the sense that with some attorneys from Erie County and judges, and the judges were honest with us. They said, we don't really understand the 730 law and even how to implement it and how to use it. So one of the things they did, they started a committee in Erie County that I want to replicate here in Chautauqua County, where we have a seat at the table, a committee between judges, public defenders, and also district attorneys, because there may be some individuals that we know for a fact that we don't have to send them to get evaluated, because we know that they are not deemed fit, they're not going to be found fit to stand trial. So it's operating different ways when it comes to sentencing, if it fits. I'll give you a perfect example. There was a gentleman who was intellectually disabled in Chemung County who keyed a car, and they arrested him, and they were going to send him up to see if he seemed deemed fit. And the DCS up there had a real close relationship, and he knew. He was like, we're not going to, let's not send him up there. We're just going to invest this money. Let's invest it somewhere else. So that's what we're trying to do here in the Chautauqua County, to get ahead of this and continue to advocate at the state level as well, as to assisting us with this burden, because of the mental health crisis that we're seeing across the state.
Any questions, comments? Seeing none, we'll vote on resolution number 19. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carried. Resolution number 20, to modify acceptance of Chautauqua Water Wastewater Cooperative Grant.
Mr. Chairman, this resolution was amended last night.
Pardon?
This resolution was amended last night.
It was.
Yeah, just a strike through in the first whereas clause of the words "for the 5-year period from April 1st, 2018 to March 31st, 2023.
Did they
It's just a typo.
typo?
It was amended,
It was amended.
yes.
We will deal with it as amended then.
Good morning, my name is Jessica Worsley, Environmental Health Director, Chautauqua County.
And Valerie Liz, Director of Administrative Services for the Department of Health and Human Services.
So this resolution is to accept the funding for this, this grant. We're modifying an existing resolution that was first established in 2018 to accept funding for a Department of State grant. The grant is to invest in a shared services approach to dealing with water, and wastewater facilities in Chautauqua County, to look for ways to collaborate on services such as sharing water operators, being able to purchase supplies with, better contracting to get the prices better when you're buying in bulk sort of situation. Equipment for, any kind of repairs or emergency situations that come up. So we have a grant from Department of State that has been fully executed, and we are in a phase where we need to start a pilot project to show that there is value in this effort. And once we successfully implement and complete a pilot project, then we would potentially be eligible for a larger amount of money to accept from that grant.
And the 3 districts that are involved now?
The 3 districts that we're looking to involve in the pilot project currently are the town of Ripley, town of Cherry Creek, and town of Sherman, because those 3, we're starting with those 3 and trying to include those 3 in the pilot project because they are relatively small districts currently. They also have the larger fees in the county. So we're looking at including those 3 small districts now in the pilot project to see if, this shared services approach really has the merit that we think it does.
So the bones of why we had to make a resolution and why it's written the way it's written. This grant, as you know, it started in 2018. We put through a resolution at that time for phase 1 administrative startup phase for $50,000, knowing that once more of those other phases rolled out and things were decided how it would be, the money would be spent, that there would be more resolutions to come. The grant, as it started, pretty much went back to scratch, started all over again. They decided instead, rather than doing what the original was, which I believe was a much more wide view of what they wanted us to do, they pulled back and said, let's do this pilot. So we got the grant and we're ready to go, and we realized, well, the new grant agreement was accompanied, when it went through the system, by the old resolution, which really was incomplete because we didn't have any of the wording in there that said that the county executive could sign any agreements with those different districts that are going to be involved here. So we kind of had to clean up what we had done, and that's why it's not a new grant, but it's pretty much a new version of an old grant that never really worked out the way it was meant to work out. We were back and forth with the state for a long, long time on this. And so what we changed last night was only because it's a little bit confusing, the actual agreement we have now really is for April 1, 2018 through March 31, 2023. But look at us, we're in December 22 right now, so we're not going to get this work done. And the state fully understands this. They are going to extend this grant. We know that. But it hasn't happened yet. And so the term was taken out of the resolution just to show that we really aren't up against that back end limit like it looks. I don't know if that, I think that's all I have to say until you have questions.
Any questions? Comments? Seeing none, we'll vote on proposed resolution 20. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Resolution 21, to amend 2022 budget to reopen the address isolation quarantine housing project within Chautauqua County American Rescue Plan Act ARP spending plan.
This is, and John Anderson is going to come talk to you about this, but first of all, I'm looking at this resolution, and at this late date, I realized, why are we doing this in the 2022 budget? We're not going to get this done in 2022. Should we change this to be for the 2023 budget?
That's a good idea. We can, because at the end of the year, I will do a resolution to roll forward any unused budgets from 2022 into 2023.
okay.
But I think you're right that we could skip that step with this project just to change it to 2023.
So I'll let you decide what you want to do with that then.
I think that's a good idea that we could just, change the title to amend the 2023 budget.
And then the resolved, I believe.
And then, yeah, and then just the resolve clause to 2023. Yeah, I think that's a very good idea.
This one, okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll consider that a typo.
I'd say so.
Yeah, that's,
Intent was for 2023.
yeah. We'll consider that a typo and proceed along.
Good morning, John Anderson, Interim Commissioner, Social Services. Thank you for your time. This resolution seeks to reopen ARPA funds amounting to $100,000 that were previously made available for emergency sheltering of homeless persons. These were persons who were, at the time, in need of a suitable location to isolate or quarantine due to an infectious disease. When we issued an RFP earlier to the community agencies following the approval of these funds originally, we did not receive replies. At this time, however, there are 3 organizations in the process of establishing shelter services, and we believe these funds would encourage them to take measures to ensure the facilities could be used for isolation and quarantine purposes when you have a person who otherwise has no place to do so. And currently, in the county, we do not have these facilities available. We've resorted to using hotels. It's not been a frequent occurrence, and that has not been the best scenario or desirous for the county. So we're seeking evaluation of that original allocation.
We had added it to our budget. We'd gone out to RFP or bid or whatever it was. And we really didn't get any takers. And so we basically gave the money back. We didn't really, the project wasn't canceled so much as we just took it back out of our budget, saying, okay, we're not gonna be spending this, so take it out of our revenue, take it out of our costs, other than a very small amount that was used for advertising. That's why it started at 100,000, it's now 99,962.
I just have one question, Mr. Chair. What would qualify for, like the quarantine? Is it specific, or is it just, is it COVID, is it? No,
Any
it's
kind of disease.
Any infectious that may
Could be
need
measles,
quarantine?
could be RSV, could be flu, could be anything, just to make sure that the other people staying in the shelter are safe
Okay.
from whatever this disease may be.
So this be primarily for the homeless?
Yes,
Yes,
these are
homeless
homeless
people?
shelters.
Okay.
Mhm.
Yeah, it would be settings where there's more than one person.
Okay.
So you'd want to have the capability to keep people apart.
That makes
It would
sense to do.
probably be
Yeah.
mainly some ventilation type
Okay.
costs.
It could be ventilation things. We do have a men's shelter in Jamestown
Mm-hmm.
that probably we've used before for this. The issue has been that we've had occurrences where somebody with a disability couldn't gain access to the facility
Okay,
because it's not compliant. So
That's another issue.
it may be that somebody such as you might use the funding to make the facility accessible to people who need this service but
Or
couldn't.
to somehow separate
Just like the hotels you're
rooms
currently
from-
using, it's just not a viable?
It's
No.
not good, there's no
It's not a viable
food
option.
service there. When we tried to set these agreements up, it's
Yeah, I
expensive.
can imagine too.
It's expensive, there's no food service, nobody wants to come in and do the extra work for
Okay.
changing their linens, and it's hard.
Well, this makes more sense, and I'd be in favor, so, thank you.
You have 3 organizations now that could.
Well, there's actually,
could provide
there's
housing.
3 for sure that could apply for the funding if they so choose to do so. But there is a 4th, and that would be UCAN. The other 3 are Joy Fellowship in Jamestown, the Mental Health Association in Jamestown, and Chautauqua Opportunities. And we would like it if they would apply.
So if there were 4 organizations, you'd split that money between them, they'd come to you with
Right.
like some plans, and you'd pay for that?
We'd be
environmental-
reserving the right to, within the $100,000, assess the different proposals. They could request the full amount or portions, and we'd have to make decisions within that. When we set this up originally, we had an RFP, and there would be a review committee that would look at all of that and make some decisions internal.
Okay.
Dan,
Do you think the hesitancy for this is that the places just aren't completely set up for this? Like you said, they're gonna say, well, yeah, let's apply for this and make this space, but look, we don't have the people to provide 24/7 for these people, right? You know, because it's, you know, let them stay at the hospital where they have the care at least. If we just aren't equipped. Do you think that's the hesitancy to apply for this?
I would say that with one of the organizations that is going to receive money from OTDA, which is New York State Office of Temporary Disability Assistance, to talk about opportunities, I don't think there'd be hesitancy at all to do this. Originally, when this funding was available, they were very early in their application process for those funds, and I don't think they saw at that time it necessary to do it. The other two of the agencies, UCAN and Mental Health Association and Joy Fellowship, very recently started down the process of establishing shelter. So we'd like them to think about now including this as part of their plan.
I think a lot of the wheels have just been turning really slowly over the last couple of years, and that they're
Yeah.
just starting to get a little more active. And so we're hoping that this time they're more ready to think about this.
Thank you.
We'll vote on the 21st resolution we have this morning. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carried. 22, amend Chautauqua County Health and Human Services 2022 adopted budget for increased preschool costs.
Okay, this one, as you know, when we were talking about Wendy Douglas is here to help talk about this if you do have some questions. She's coming down. You may remember during our budget discussions, we have increased our preschool budget quite a bit going into 2023. You may remember that usually every year we do come to you and ask you for more money for preschool. So part of this is that we've always budgeted fairly conservatively, trying, coming to you and asking for less than we really thought we needed, because we thought that we couldn't get what we thought we truly needed from you. But we kind of went for it for the 2023 budget, and we think we're set for it. But now we're making up for the 22 budget where we didn't go for it and ask for what we really could see coming. There was about a 10% increase, I believe, in both the fees charged by the different schools or providers of services, and also transportation, which is one of our largest costs in this program. So this is to get us to a good place in 2022. But I wanted to let you know that for 2023, we should be okay, barring any other circumstances. And we've always said that the population here is going to keep growing because of the opioid epidemic, that a lot of babies were coming through with issues. And we have been seeing that over the past year, and so we're trying to get everything in a row to cover us for 2022 and let you know that 2023 we're hoping is good. And Wendy, you should introduce yourself. I jumped past that.
Hi, Wendy Douglas, Director of Patient Services for the County Health Department.
Any questions?
No, I'm all set. Pretty self-explanatory.
Dan?
Sure. Under the new reorganization structure, what side of things does this resolution fall on?
This will stay in health.
This will stay in health. Val, where are you going in all this? Are you staying in health?
People say
Okay.
we've been told things, but I have not been told
Okay.
anything. I'm also facing a whole reorganization of the finance group.
Yep.
So not only is my department coming apart under my feet, I don't know where all my people are going to be. I don't know what to do. I don't know when people retire, if I should rehire. I'm just trying to keep things going as best I can, doing what needs to be done as well as I possibly can, so that whatever happens, wherever we end up, it's as clean as can be.
I assume that might be the answer to my question, so I never answer something or ask something I don't kind of know.
There are certain parts of the fiscal group that are more geared towards the health side versus the DSS side. But there's several of us who straddle. That was part of where we had some cost savings and some, we worked well together. And, so I don't know how that's going to be. Purchasing has been consolidated, but we really haven't, totally moved into that picture either yet because, we're still doing our own contracts and stuff. And we just became part of the purchasing consolidation very recently, so we were the last department to come in, so we haven't gotten to the bottom of that yet. So there's a lot going on.
Well, thank you, and I value always your knowledge of the material we're just discussing, and be patient. I'm sure you're gonna fit in somewhere just perfect, so thank you.
Kind of wait and see.
Any more questions, discussion? Seeing none, we'll vote on resolution number 22. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Number 23, amend the 2023 budget for snowmobile trail development and maintenance grant.
Good morning, Chairman. Good morning, everyone. I'm Rebecca Worster, Planning Coordinator for the Department of Planning and Development. Today's resolution is ultimately just a proactive resolution for our 2023 snowmobile budget. Every year, the county acts as a pass-through for state grant funding for the 5 snowmobile clubs who maintain those trails in the county based on their mileage. And we have about 728 miles of snowmobile trails, which is really, really great. Our clubs do a really great job as well. Every year in the budget season, we anticipate our grant amount funding, and towards the end of the year, we actually find out the actual amount that we're going to be getting, and we were happy to find out that 2023's budget will be increased by $38,000. This is basically coming into account of an increase for new mileage rates that the state has set, and high snow rates that the state will be anticipating. Based on specific snowmobile registration funds, the state increased their budget for snowmobile grants by $600,000. So we were able to secure $38,000 more. So the budget will go up from $229,000 to $267,000 for 2023.
Any questions, comments?
Self-explanatory.
Seeing none, we'll vote on resolution number 23. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Carried.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other?
Mr. Chairman, there is one more resolution on your desk, I believe. A late resolution for a public hearing for the Jamestown Airport.
Lease
Not
agreement?
on my desk.
No?
There was, I didn't see it.
Lease agreement?
Thank you.
I know, we just had the extra graph.
Oh, I got one, right? Lease agreement? That's it.
Public hearing on lease agreement.
The only extra one I had was this.
Sorry, yeah.
Okay, Shannon
Identify
Barnhart.
yourselves again.
Hi there, Shannon Barnhart, Manager of Airports.
Brian Bates, Assistant Manager of Airports.
We're here to ask for a public hearing for the renewal of the lease for Chase Aviation Companies. They are aircraft brokerage company and management company that has been there for the last 2 years at the airport. We're looking to do another 2-year lease with them at a rate of $500 a month. They've been good tenants so far. The first time around, we put in $2,500 for renovations in their budget. That's been removed from this lease as well. So this one's strictly revenue over the next 2 years. Kathleen, did you want to add something? It looked like, okay.
You all had a chance to look at it?
I know who they are.
And this is just for the hearing.
For
This
the hearing
resolution.
for the release, yep.
Any discussion? Seeing none, we'll vote on this resolution. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Carried.
Thank you.
Any other? I've got a little something.
You do.
Go ahead.
Will be my last act as chairman of the Audit and Control Committee. And I want to thank all the members for their good service on this committee. It's very, very important to our taxpayers. They send us up here to watch their money, and that's what we do on this committee. And I will miss doing it. That's all I have.
Mr. Chairman, thank you for your service
There you go.
and your leadership of this committee. Thank you very much. You've done an outstanding job for the taxpayers of Chautauqua County.
I've tried.
There you go.
Jay, I just want to add, it's been a pleasure serving with you the last 4 years, and best of luck to you in the future.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
And I'll second.
All in favor? Aye. We're adjourned.